Hello and welcome to this special BATV one-on-one interview. I'm your host, Kenil Gale. Today we're speaking with the founder and CEO of DStreet Media Group, Dexter Davis. Welcome to Business Access TV and welcome to Jamaica.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, let's start by giving our audience a little background about who is Dexter Davis.
That's kind of a loaded question, and I don't really know if we have time to fully sort of get into who is Dexter Davis and his. But as a CEO, I can talk about that. So I am a executive producer. I produce television and films internationally. I'm a distributor in North America, so I release films theatrically and through ancillary business, television, free TV, pay TV, so forth and so on. You know, I like to say that I'm a media guy that loves, you know, content around the world. And I've been working towards, you know, building a company that is not unlike studios in Hollywood, but on a smaller scale. But we're sort of going in that direction.
Awesome. All right, we'll get so much more into that, but let's talk a little bit about Dexter Davis growing up, where you were born, where you grew up, and what was that like?
So I am from America, obviously, and I was born in Greenville, Mississippi, so in the South. My parents moved when I was 3 years old to San Jose, California, better known as the Silicon Valley. So I grew up there, went to school there, graduated, moved to San Francisco. Ended up getting a job for NBC at 23, where I then, a year later, executive produced and created my own TV show called Out Talk Magazine. Sold the show 4 years later and moved to Los Angeles and started my company called Stone Creek Entertainment at the time. And then moved to Europe to learn about the international film business. So, you know, my personal life has been really sort of, you know, woven in with my business life because I started out so young. So I haven't really, when I talk about myself personally, I can't not talk about the business because I've been doing that as long as I've been, you know, in my early 20s.
Were you always drawn to entertainment?
Yes. I mean, I think a lot of people assume that I was going to be in front of the camera because I studied dance. I studied ballet. I had 7 years of ballet, piano, music, drama. So I was that guy, but I wasn't that good. And I always knew that I wasn't that great. I worked hard to be good because I'm very competitive, but I really shine when I was producing, when I was putting things together. I didn't know that was a word for it at the time, but you know, when I was in high school, I was, you know, always a campaign manager for my friends who were running for a student body government, or I was, you know, choreographing, or I was directing the theater, or doing anything where it was like putting things together. And I excelled at that, and I felt the most comfortable doing things like that. So, so entertainment, I mean, I suppose the arts are just a big part of that. So dance, theater, so forth and so on. And it wasn't until I was in school, in college, that I decided that I wanted to be in film. And that was just kind of a freak accident because I read a book that I thought could be made into a film. And then 3 months later, it was a film. So I was bitten by the bug at that point and thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to make movies.
Talk to us about the formation of Stone Creek and the Stone Creek Entertainment and its evolution into DStreet now.
So that's a very short story because we failed miserably with that company. You know, Stone Creek came about from my neighborhood. I lived in a place where the names were like Beaver Creek or Stone Ridge, and so I wanted to do something personal. So I put, you know, two of those words together and two of those streets together. It came to Stone Creek, and I wanted to have a boutique company that specialized in international films. We were doing well until 9/11 happened, and that kind of like took us out of the game because we were investing so much money and being in Los Angeles and developing projects that by the time our first film came about, we were going to do it in Spain. And we just got completely derailed because no actors were getting on airplanes. Right. And we had run out of money, and so that was the end of Stone Creek. And that's when I decided to move to Europe and try my hand at international films.
Besides 9/11, what would you say would have been the biggest lesson you learned out of the failure of Stone Creek?
Be capitalized. Be more capitalized. I mean, I didn't really know what the film business was. So I was in Los Angeles for about 5 years before I even attempted to make my first film. And so monies that I had that were the proceeds of the show that I sold to NBC had basically run out because I had, I bought a house and had an office in Beverly Hills and a staff, and this was before we even sort of had any kind of revenue stream. So we were kind of undercapitalized. Mm-hmm. And so when the I can't say this, but when it hit the fan,
we know.
9/11, we weren't prepared for the sort of the reaction of the world and Hollywood in terms of having actors go overseas, and so it completely derailed us, and we had no staying power because we had run out of money.
Right. Mm-hmm. You went to Spain?
Well, I've been to Spain.
Right. The films you've done. Talk to us about some of those.
Sure. So the first film I did while living in London, mm-hmm. I did it in New York. It's called The Reception, and it's a film that we did for $5,000. And I basically wanted to, try to make a movie that we could make our money back. Right. And the time that I had in LA, I learned the industry. I learned the business of film, and so I could make it was very early for digital, and so we made a digital film in 8 days, upstate New York in the Catskills. But I understood what it took to get that film not only made for a really, really low budget, micro budget, no budget is what you would probably call that, but I understood that the most important aspect was distribution. And so before we even finished the film, we actually sold the film on a rough cut, mm-hmm. which is something that you don't normally do. But that film did very well. It played at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2005, I believe it was. And then we opened to great New York Times reviews, and sort of my career got started from that. Then I went on to do another film called Rivers Wash Over Me, mm-hmm. Which was at the time a film about bullying and kids in school who were different, and that was a bit of kind of an epidemic in the U.S. where there was teen suicide because of bullying.
How important was it for you to tell that kind of story?
It was very important for me. In fact, it took me a couple of years to decide on getting it done because it was so hard hitting and something that was kind of scary, and I really didn't want to touch the subject. But I thought, as a filmmaker, you have to sometimes be brave, mm-hmm. and you have a responsibility in terms of what's going on in society. So the same director that I did the first film with, we did this film, The Rivers Wash Over Me, together, and that really impacted my life. But more importantly, it impacted a lot of people's lives because they had seen themselves reflected in that film. So that was the second film. I did another film called Somewhere Slow. I've done like 7 films in the last 10 years. So if I don't remember all the names, it's because there's a lot of them. So I did another independent film. Then I started to do more international stuff. And so I went to South Africa, and I did an Afrikaners films and Afrikaans. And so it's just been going on, since then. And these have sort of been very international art house films, and then we're sort of moving now into more commercial Hollywood type of stuff because we now have the experience and the know-how and some resources to get that done.
You've been very much at the forefront of helping to bring more foreign language films to North America. Why was that important for you?
Well, one, I like foreign language films, and I thought that for America and Americans, it's a big country, but we don't really travel. Right. And at the time that I decided to go into the foreign film business in terms of distribution, there was a census or a statistic that said that only 6% of Americans had passports. So that meant that Americans pretty much never left.
They weren't going anywhere.
They were going anywhere.
Right.
So I thought, particularly after 9/11, and the world sort of became bigger for Americans, that I thought, we really don't know how other cultures really live. And if we're not going to those places, we're going to bring them to the U.S. through cinema. And so that was really one of my prime motivations for bringing foreign language to the U.S. But also, from a business perspective and strategy, foreign language films really didn't compete with Hollywood films. They were completely different genre. They were played in different theaters. So we never really had to sort of have the marketing muscle that Hollywood did to compete, because there was no competition. Art house, specialized films, Hollywood films, different theaters. We had plenty of room to, exhibit, because we have 40,000 screens in the U.S.
Right.
And even at that time, digital screens were sort of on the rise. And so we always had enough screens in the U.S. to really export the content.
We have to take a quick break, Dexter, but we want to talk more when we come back about the work you've been doing in Africa and that big Jamaican collaboration that you just inked. We're talking with Dexter Davis. He is the founder and CEO of DStreet Media Group, right here on this Business Access TV special one-on-one interview. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back to this special Business Access TV one-on-one interview. Today we're speaking with Dexter Davis, and he is the CEO and founder of the DStreet Media Group. Now, Dexter, let's talk a little bit about you working in Ghana with the National Museum of Slavery and Freedom and working with Kofi Annan. What was that experience like?
Well, first of all, you've done your research.
I try.
So I'm not working with Kofi at the moment. Right. I'm on the same board.
Right.
And so the museum is a project that is in collaboration with the Smithsonian, and they are building I believe, a $300 million museum in Ghana, and I sit on the board, and I'm also responsible for the media aspect of that, and I'll be producing the documentary around the making of or the building of the museum, which I think is an amazing opportunity for me. Obviously, the history of slavery, both Jamaica and America, is a big part of our story, and to be able to have some influence or impact on the development of this project has been a tremendous honor. And so the museum is really to document, not to document, but to exhibit. Where this kind of all started from the shores of Ghana and so forth and so on. So, until it's built, there's nothing else to really sort of to comment on, but it's just a tremendous honor. Mm-hmm.
There are plans to expand DStreet Media Group and setting up shop in Atlanta, it is?
In Atlanta?
Right.
Yes, so we're based, our headquarters is in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
We have offices in Berlin and Cape Town, South Africa. And Buenos Aires, and we're thinking about, we have a UK company that we're sort of thinking about expanding there too, in terms of having an office. Mm-hmm. I just recently decided to expand into Atlanta for our television division.
Right.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, but Atlanta has now become the sort of the Hollywood of the South. Right. It's behind Los Angeles and New York, and so it's huge revenue from TV and film, and so we just wanted to be a part of that, and being around also progressive African Americans who are doing media was something that was very exciting to us as well.
Is there a Jamaica office coming?
I would say yes. That I've partnered with a very lovely, smart music manager who's going to be leading that business. So John Music Group, but that's expanding into other things. Mm-hmm. So Shelly Karan is the managing director of that company, and we just did a 5-year music placement deal that was announced here, I think about a week ago. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to go even a bit further than that and expand that into outside of music, but also film and television, and in terms of management, talent management, from writers, directors, producers, actors. So what we're hoping to do is be the first real talent agency in Jamaica, but also the Caribbeans.
So the deal with John John is going beyond just the artists that
Yes.
that they're managing right now.
Yes, yes. So this is news. This is breaking, right? So we haven't talked about this publicly, but you know, since my time here, I have met the most incredible, talented, creative, smart people, and it just makes sense for us. The close proximity to the U.S. And the similarities we have in terms of cultural things between African Americans and Jamaicans. It just makes total sense that we are going to be working with Jamaican actors and talent and our content that we're doing in the U.S. and around the world, but also the content we're developing for Jamaica for the world, in Jamaica for the world.
Mm-hmm. So the collaboration with John John was like a gateway to the Caribbean.
Yes, I would say so. This is sort of it's news to me because I didn't expect this to all happen in such a short amount of time. But Shelley to me is just this incredible, creative, forward-thinking business person who's not only thinking about the music and the quality of the music and the quality of the talent here, but what it can do for the society. Jamaica, the Caribbean, for the world. And I think that narrative of wanting to put out positive messaging through music, through film, through TV is something that's very close to our heart and our culture in the company.
Mm-hmm. For skeptics who are saying, yeah, we've heard this already, we've seen these deals being signed on paper, and then in a year or two, there's nothing happening for the artists. They're in the same spot, they're in the same position. It's not beneficial for them. Why is the DStreet collaboration any different?
Well, I mean, I think we have a proven track record. I mean, we've done this in South Africa where we have the same idea to go in and create content with South Africans in movies, television. We're building a movie studio in KwaZulu-Natal, which is on the south coast of the country. So, you know, we put the money, the resources where our mouth is. And so I understand completely what you're asking, and I believe that probably happens a lot. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, my heart in terms of the African diaspora, in terms of moving the needle forward for the advancement of people of color, is so important to me. And I think that what we've done in South Africa, we want to create that model here in Jamaica, and I think you just wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit quickly before we have to go to the break about the initial deal with John John for their artists, and I think it's they were producing music for your films. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little quickly about that.
Sure. So when I met Shelley, obviously she is managing Bugle. Mm-hmm. And you know, I listened to his music and was sort of blown away by his talent. I mean, his lyrics are really just amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm producing a film here this year, later on in the year, called The Mango Girl, and I just kind of felt that he was the right fit for the story of this movie that we're going to do, and what I wanted to do, which was really special, was create an opportunity for him where he got to be on the entire soundtrack. So it's just Bugle. And I think that will be very impactful, not only for him as a musician, but also for the film in terms of the part of the storytelling. It's a very complicated, difficult story. And I think from a male perspective, because it's about a young woman who's sexually abused at a very young age. But having this sort of male voice throughout the film is very important for men especially, because I think it represents a strong black person, male, supporting this story and embracing this to tell the world that, you know, this kind of stuff is not good and there needs to be something done about it. And so that's pretty much it. Shelley has other artists that we think equally are fantastic, and we have other projects that we've already discussed and negotiated, putting them on those soundtracks as well, films that we're doing this year. So, for instance, Bugle is going to not only do The Mango Girl, mm-hmm. but also do this film that we're doing called The Blue Mauritius, which is a film that we're shooting in South Africa, headlined by Anthony Mackie from Captain America and Avengers. And he'll be doing that with a collaboration with another artist for that soundtrack. Delano is one of her artists,
Right.
and Delvin,
The Doctor.
Yes, thank you. We'll be doing a song for a film called Balling on the
Right.
Other Side of the World, which is a faith-based basketball film.
Right.
So we're already out of the gate with stuff that we're doing immediately.
Nice.
So you'll see results sooner than that 2 years that you were talking about. We really want to show people that we mean business, and I think as soon as even next month we'll be releasing, or she will be releasing with some artists that we are working with in South Africa, with her artists here in Jamaica.
All right, we're taking another quick break. Dexter, when we come back, I want to talk more about expanding film locally and kind of pick your brain for some advice for local filmmakers. We're talking with Dexter Davis. He's the CEO and founder of DStreet Media Group, right here on Business Access. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back to this special Business Access TV one-on-one interview with Dexter Davis, the CEO of DStreet Media Group. Now, Dexter, in the previous segments, we're talking about the collaboration with John Music Group. But I want you to just talk to us about John being the gateway for DStreet to have more collaborations with local talent that goes beyond just music.
Right. So as a film producer, as an executive producer, I'm in charge of developing content from script to screen. And what we are going to do is collaborate with John in terms of their talent that they're managing, including actors, for instance, because that's a new concept of having an agency for talent in Jamaica, where we're developing content for the world. So that means we're using American actors, European actors, South African actors, you name it. And I think that it's imperative in order to really build an industry that you create a star system.
Right.
And so you really need, great writers, great actors, great directors, and things of that nature, but you also need the opportunity to create the content or be a part of the content. So if we're doing, a $20 million heist film in the way that we're doing in South Africa, and we are doing it with Anthony Mackie or Gerard Depardieu,
right,
or Thomas Kirschman from Germany or whatever, and we say, look, there's a role here that is sort of nondescript, and why don't we, see what we have in terms of talent in Jamaica, actors, and let's put a Jamaican actor in the film.
So this is opening up opportunities and giving Jamaican actors a direct link to these big films.
Yeah. So in a way that Hollywood may overlook. Obviously Jamaican actors have been working in Hollywood for a while, but not on a sort of large scale, right? So we're not having these sort of really huge household names around America, around the world. So when it comes to what we can do is, by pairing Jamaican actors with American, with blah, 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 we're creating a star system, right? Because the more impressions that film or that TV property has, the more people get to know who that artist may be, right? So because I'm the boss, the CEO, I make the final decisions. And having a partnership with John, for instance, where we have some ownership of that company because we are investing into that company. It's not just a partnership where we're, feed us the music or feed us talent, and we don't have any sort of real association with it. We're actually investing into John itself, and so that it's it's full circle for us. It's not just where if Shelley's doing well, the artist does okay, we do a little bit. No, we're all going to prosper together, and so really having this partnership with John Music Group, which I think they're going to expand on that name because it needs to encompass everything. Like I said, to
it's
be
more
the
of a
first
talent group now than
talent agency, product placement. You name it, they're going to be it. They're going to be the DStreet of Jamaica for us, but owned by Shelley.
And this collaboration also gives these local artists more, well, a better revenue stream.
Absolutely.
Well, an opportunity for a better revenue stream.
Well, I mean, if you're making, the bigger the budgets, the more money their fees can be, right? So if you're making a $5 million film and, you know, you have a part in this film, you know, there's a good, you know, amount of money to be made on that. If you're writing or if you're directing, you have, you know, what we call back-end points on the film, so you get to participate in that. So the goal is, particularly with John, is that the more we do and prosper, the more that revenue can come back and feed that company, and then that company can grow and expand.
And help grow the local industry.
And that grows the local industry, where if you don't have the screens, called movie screens, right? Theaters, which I think Jamaica is, I would say, severely underscreened for its population. I think you have less than 50 screens in the entire country, right? So if you don't have the screens, then there's really no way to have an industry unless you have a star system in which people from here can work abroad, and those films, revenues can then come back and feed the local industry. And then you can even start it to, you know, who knows, Shelley might get into the exhibition business and start opening theaters. That's part of our plan in Africa. It can be done here.
Just quickly, we're almost out of time, but what's your advice to members in the local film industry to help grow the industry?
You know, I talk to actors, producers, directors, obviously all the time. And the one thing that I always say is be prepared. Know your craft. You know, you can't rest on your laurels. It's a very competitive business, film, TV, music. Everybody wants to be a part of it. But the ones who make it are the ones who really work hard to sort of break through. So if you don't know what you're doing, then learn it. And when you learn it, it's a muscle. It's like a muscle. You have to keep working it out over and over. So some of the biggest stars in the world, you may not know this, but they still take acting classes because they want to always work on their craft. So work on your craft, know what you're doing, network like hell, because it's a, you know, you know, that whole I know you, you know me type of thing. That's a part of the industry. Right. So networking is a big part of that. But more importantly, just know what you're doing.
All right. Most importantly, know what you're doing. Dexter, thank you so much for joining us here on Business Access TV.
Pleasure.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our special one-on-one interview with Dexter Davis, founder and CEO of DStreet Media Group. Well, big things are in store, so stay with Business Access and we'll definitely keep you up to date with all of this. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kenil Gale. Pleasant viewing.